So we finally know what happened 1,000 years ago. Occultae revealed Sang-un was a Bulgasal, which caused the village to turn against her. Hwal and Sang-un were the only two Bulgasals in the land, and it was Sang-un's love for the humans that created a rift between them. This sets Hwal on a killing rampage. In the end, it was Hwal's curse that created a perpetual cycle of suffering and vengeance.
What's up, Sunny fam? Welcome back to another video. We are finally at the end of Bulgasal chapter or episode 15 and 16. Hwal and Sang-un were the original Bulgasals. For some reason, we don't know why they were sending children into the cave, but it was in this moment that Sang-un was getting attached to these children, and it kind of created this divide between Hwal and Sang-un. Fast forward to when Occultae reveals her true identity and causes the entire village to turn on her, and that's when my theory was kind of like 90% correct, because in our last video I was saying, well, something had to have set him on that path. Something had to cause him to kill everyone, and it wasn't just, you know, Hwal going around killing a whole village willy-nilly.
Right.
And it turns out, of course, that they were trying to harm her, or at least in his eyes, they were trying to harm her, which caused Detective Kwon in the past, as well as Shiho and Do-yun, who were the original children that she got attached to begin with, to stab Hwal and kill him. And so that's why he curses them, with Do-yun never being able to see, and Shiho never being able to give birth, and with Detective Kwon losing his arm.
So that's really sets the motion of this perpetual suffering and vengeance. Their ill-fated relationships are just going to continue in this perpetual cycle. Even after that, Occultae takes Hwal and tries to become Bulgasal, which kind of happens, and Hwal dies as a human, so he is reincarnated 600 years ago, or whatever, the 400 years later, right? Is it 400 years later? 1,000 years ago, then 600 years ago. And then his soul gets taken by Sang-un, because I think Sang-un's trying to prevent this cycle to continue, where he in turn becomes a Bulgasal again. We fast forward to present time, and Detective Kwon gives his blood to Hwal, where it reawakens him.
Now, what happened 600 years ago is still a bit muddy to me. I don't know about you, but it seems to me that 600 years ago, she was trying to turn him into a Bulgasal again and kind of reignite this lost love that they had 1,000 years ago. But she didn't bank on the fact that he would not have those memories, and he would turn around and stab her as well and curse her again. And it would just, again, go through this cycle that was started with Occultae and all of the curses that Hwal doled out in the past.
Well, I guess this is what the confusing part is, because Occultae is half Bulgasal, and where's the other half of that soul that Hwal has? I thought that Sang-un took that other half so that he could never be reincarnated into a Bulgasal again. And so I think she was trying to prevent him from becoming a Bulgasal, but that, I guess, is still very muddy.
Very muddy indeed, because the ending turned out to be something that I wasn't really expecting, because I had foreseen that at the very least they were going to try to find a way to end the cycle and live happily as humans. But, well, one part they did try to find a way to end the cycle, which was to just die with each other. We got this weird like time-lapse montage of them jumping 5, 10, 30 years, 50 years into the future, where Sang-un and Hwal finally have their destined meeting in that old house.
I think it's because Hwal and Occultae died, because there's only two Bulgasals that can be together, right? And I think that was Occultae's ultimate goal in the first place, was to be with Hwal, the same way that Hwal was with Sang-un as the two Bulgasals of the land. And so those two dying pretty much ends everything. Hwal's curse, Occultae is no longer, you know, the scumbag that he is, and now there's no more Bulgasals, and so the only question remains is, do they actually get reincarnated? And it seems like Hwal gets reincarnated 50 years later, and so does Sang-un, and they're kind of like these star-crossed lovers who ultimately have a happy ending.
Now that could be explained, because what they say in the beginning of episode 15 is that the Bulgasal can't be reincarnated because the Bulgasal has no soul. And we already know that Sang-un has part of Hwal's soul, which is why Hwal was always chasing her down. Aside from all of the other things, the monsters that got reincarnated recognized Hwal's soul within her. But as Hwal and Occultae are dying, they are both Bulgasal. They do not have souls, and the one that Occultae is trying to get back to fill his dark hole is the one that Sang-un has, and he needs to perform that ritual, right? He keeps on, like, throughout this entire series, he needs to perform a ritual to get that soul back into the dark hole. Occultae dies as a Bulgasal. He can't get reincarnated. Hwal dies, but he is not a Bulgasal because Sang-un also dies, which means he gets his soul back.
See, that's the thing that's like, Ooh, okay, so how does this actually work? Because Hwal doesn't have his soul, Sang-un has his soul, and so if they both die, that's kind of...
I think the simplest explanation is that Okulte died as a Bulgasal, he has no soul, no reincarnation. By Sang-un choosing to die there, the soul reverts back to Hwal and he becomes a human. And because Sang-un isn't fully a Bulgasal and half of it goes to Okulte, she gets to reincarnate as well. That's at least how I'm rationalizing things.
Yeah, that actually does kind of make sense because she also dies, but she also has half of Hwal's soul. I still think Hwal dies as the Bulgasal at that very moment when he stabs his heart, but Hwal's soul that Sang-un has gets reincarnated as a human. Like, it doesn't matter about the Hwal. It doesn't matter about the Hwal who stabbed himself.
Well,
that Bulgasal is done.
He stabbed himself, but Sang-un also was holding on to it. And so that's when the soul came back to him, and she had the half that was split with her twin sister. And so he dies. She like in that very moment when he stabbed himself and she held on to it, she accepted that he was going to die. The soul went back into Hwal. That's how he died, not as a Bulgasal, but as a human, and he was able to reincarnate. And Sang-un's other half of the soul, which came from her split twin sister, she still had that.
Right.
And so when she died as a human, she too could
reincarnate as a human.
She too can reincarnate, yes.
Did I miss that part when she was holding him? Was there some kind of animation that like transferred the souls, or this is just
this is just me rationalizing it. He stabbed himself, she came over and she held on to it.
Gotcha.
That's just me like going deep into it.
Okay. I actually really love that because it was a very bittersweet moment. They were holding in each other's arms. We didn't actually see anything happen, but it's left for interpretation where Hwal actually becomes human as he was dying, and so they're both reincarnated as human 50 years later. I really loved the part where the camera pans to the family picture because that kind of signifies that whenever they're reincarnated again, they don't have the curse on them, and so they'll live normally like regular human beings whenever they're reincarnated. And that's kind of just like, for me, it was enough to say, it was like, okay, that was beautiful. It was poetic the way it ended, and I actually really enjoyed it.
One thing they could have done that maybe would have made more sense is if they both saw the picture and then they both regained their memories.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that would have been as poetic, but I don't know. Why don't you let us know in the comment section below, what did you think of the ending, and what do you think about our theory of Hwal dying as they were in their embrace as a human being? Because that really does make sense, and it kind of fits. Like, I think it's the best explanation that I've heard, so I think
it would make my theory correct.
I think it's the best explanation by far.
It would make my theory correct that they did find a way to end the cycle, and that just meant they both had to die, but she had to return his soul. But that'll do it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe for more Asian entertainment and K-pop content, and turn on the bell notification. But as always, this is what we're watching this Sunday. We'll see you guys next time.